W15 is the most anticipated car of the year for 2024. But with it being the most anticipated, it also puts the most pressure on the Mercedes team to actually perform and get the car in the working window. But from what we're hearing and the advancements that are being made over there in the Mercedes squad, they're pretty good signs and the team is looking positive. So let's talk about all the information we have on the W15 and how it is advancing going into its starting spec of the car. If you guys enjoy the videos and you guys enjoy what I do, please like, subscribe, and share the video. It'd mean the world for me. We're almost at 15K. That would mean a lot if we can make that by the end of January. That'd be huge getting into the start of the season. So thank you all so much for the support. Please like and subscribe. Let's get into the bigger part of the W15 video talking about Mercedes. So where I wanted to start with this video was talking about, well, comments being made from James Allison. As I say, I call him the Gladiator. That's kind of the nickname that he has going around the paddock because he's made so many notorious cars. And now that he's back constructing his full, complete W15, it's a new season. We have to make sure you get out of the starting blocks well. The car will be completely new, and it's doubtfully important that the vehicle is good for 2024. The new rules for 2026 are slowly casting their shadow on us, and we have to build a corresponding car as early as 2025. The car with 2025 will therefore be closely related. So he's talking about the obvious concept change from going from the no side pod design to what will now be a side pod design with a complete interior change. When I say internal advancements, I mean that this car on the interior, where everything is most important for a Formula One car, from the side pod inlet and how it's going to look like on the interior there, to the engine being more spread out in the back, allowing for more rear grip in the car because the rear of the car will now be changed in a lot of ways. The bottom of the car with the diffuser will be switched on a lot more rather than it was before, causing so much drag because of its bigger gearbox. I talked about in the Aston Martin video why this is a significant problem for not only drag but straight line speed. Sometimes you can have good drag with the car going into certain corners and what you do with the front wing. The whole entire front wing flexing thing was technically good drag at that time period, but both Mercedes and Red Bull didn't really manipulate that tactic. It didn't really matter for the both of them, nor for Ferrari. It kind of hurt Aston Martin in a way, but yet again, even Red Bull talked about that whole entire front wing fiasco and said that on the front wing, you can really only gain like a tenth if you switch it out. The same goes for the rear wing. There's a lot more effectiveness in the rear wing. You can probably gain closer to 3 to 4 tenths, but where the real magic for this car and where the real performance comes out of is obviously in the floor, but how you dictate that side pod and undercut design. That's what we see with Red Bull going to the rear of the car and how that airflow is getting flown to the back to provide straight line speed, but also that high downforce, which apparently right now the rumor is for Ferrari that they have 30 points of downforce. Now, Mercedes has been silently quiet, and one of my favorite things that's kind of came out about this is that the current car in the 2024 tunnel, they make Aston Martin use different doors getting into the wind tunnel. Now, this is a pretty funny report, and this is because they use the same wind tunnel, both Aston Martin and Mercedes. So Mercedes is pushing back Aston Martin. They see them as big rivals now with the actually competitive car. Didn't hear this in 2022 when the Aston Martin was quite trash, but now that the car has actually stepped up, looking like a lot better of a car, they're a little more cautious. They're like, all right, they got Dan Follows over there. They got a good team. Plus, they're also a lot happier with the car. We have reports of Toto Wolff being super excited to test out what's on the track and if it's actually working all correctly. From the numbers, James Allison says they're running into 2024 gunning for the championship already. Does this mean the car will come out super strong in the beginning? It means that the car will be very strong, but will it be to the top notch of Red Bull, and will it be fighting that Red Bull squad like we would all love to see? Now, it's going to take time for this car to actually kind of cement with the tracks and when they get the setup window perfectly. We know for this car, and a big thing that I want to emphasize on these cars, I talked about it in a Red Bull video, talking about why the car is so dominant. It's the base of the car. The W14 base was so far off from what it needed to be. Now, what does this exactly mean? The actual base and where the car's setup level wasn't at a good height. It was actually at a pretty weak height, so they had to compromise a lot of things with its both front wing and rear wing, and that's why the car was super draggy. they couldn't rely on the floor picking up most of the airflow, kind of like it was with Red Bull. The Red Bull has the airflow going from the car mainly under the floor. That's why they're able to be so good, and their setup window is so high, so they're good on almost every single track. While for Mercedes, high downforce tracks, it worked. On low downforce, not so much. They were pretty good actually in Las Vegas, so it seemed like the new floor that they brought in COTA helped a lot. Raising that floor edge, being able to pick up a few things off of that, but also picking up the floor. This is important for their new concept, and this is something that James Allison himself built. Everything you saw in the car before, with the exception of the front wing in Silverstone, was not really built by James Allison. There were upgrades that were already coming to the car to see where this car could actually step up to, from Mike Elliott, the predecessor to W14 and W13, which are cars that will never really be remembered in the Mercedes history, because neither of those cars have given Lewis Hamilton a victory. And Lewis has said, and a big thing also to note is, he has been stepping up in the factory over there a lot. He's been talking with the team. He says he has full faith in the team after checking out the W15 in the wind tunnel. While he is currently now in Brazil, probably taking his vacation as a man should after a very long season, he has been in that factory a lot, setting up meetings, setting up conference calls, speaking to the team of what he likes in a car. Obviously, the 7-time world champion and the killer driver, as I made a driving video that I'd love for you guys to actually check out. It's a video that I love and explains why Lewis Hamilton is so good under braking, and really that driving style is so unique to the Lewis Hamilton driving style that it is. But his feedback is some of the most important on the grid. If you win so many times, you know what you like in a car and what the car needs. Obviously, this guy's not going to go out and make the side pods and the undercut and so on, but he is going to give that feedback that is very valuable. AlphaTauri is extremely on Daniel Ricciardo because the feedback that the guy provides is just beautiful to what it usually is to any other team. They had Yuki Tsunoda in that car and Nick DeVries. I could just imagine how the feedback was before Daniel Ricciardo. As Daniel came, they were like, wow, such a change up here in the environment, what's happening with the team. So Lewis has that same effect, but they weren't listening in the beginning, and that really made the car struggle. They went with the whole entire cockpit, changed position, but now with a completely different car. And the things that we know for the car, as I said, the base and the setup for this car will be the key to success for this team. And now with the internal parts changing, which I will bring up, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's obviously the diffuser will get a better effect, but also the floor design, making it a lot more free-flowing than it was before with his gearbox, will change up a lot of what's happening. Will they go with the push-pull rod suspension? It's very possible. I do think that they will go with the pull rod obviously in the front and push in the back like Red Bull has it in McLaren, because as you were able to see with that suspension, and something that Adrian Newey really likes to know with the car, he said he focused a lot on making that suspension the key to the concept of the RB19. So for the W15, to make this key and really to drop the base of the car much lower, to have a wider setup window, you need a better suspension. I guarantee the suspension probably played a bigger factor as to why the car is so weird in its setup, because to actually get the most out of the car, you need the car to be lower to be running that full effect of the floor that was designed. It was probably never getting it to the extent that the Red Bull was, but on high downforce tracks where you can just drop the car, and usually those high downforce tracks are a little bit smoother on the surface, like Spain, and even Singapore is not as smooth of a track, but it was giving them the downforce that they needed for the car to kind of avoid that whole entire drag problem. So suspension will be key. Will they be going with the pull rod suspension? I don't actually know yet. We'll only know that when we actually see the car physically. But the biggest things to know, and what we do know, is that the base of this car will be changed, and what they're going for in this concept is completely different. But the internal is where the magic will happen. As I talked about with the engine and the side pod concept, it means a much more free-flowing car, and we actually get to see the extent of this Mercedes engine. For right now, it's been kind of dull, and we haven't even been able to see the full extent. But if you look at the Williams car and what a car with very little drag can do with its top speed, obviously that Mercedes engine is there. With it now being a little bit more free-flowing, that's a good thing to go off of, whether the car will be very strong or not. But it's a very good sign to see that Williams can step that car up to that height. It means that Mercedes can step it up to an even bigger height with all the technology they have and the team around them. But I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you guys think is the potential for this W15 and the rumors that we've heard about it? Is it getting you excited? Are you optimistic? I'm definitely sitting in the middle. I don't know what to think till we actually see that car playing out, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please leave a like, subscribe. It would mean the world, and peace.